52-year-old businesswoman, Vindra Naipaul-Coolman returns home, unaware she is being watched. Within seconds, the silence is shattered by gunfire. Shot in the leg and dragged from her vehicle, Vindra is spirited away into the night. It is the beginning of a nightmare that will grip Trinidad and Tobago for 2 decades. While her family desperately pays a $122,000 portion of the ransom, Vindra is reportedly held here, in the hills of Diego Martin. Prosecutors would later allege she was held for 8 days before being executed on a pool table, her body dismembered to ensure she would never be found. The manhunt leads to a massive raid just weeks after the disappearance. By May 2007, 13 suspects are formally charged. But as the investigation deepens, prosecution realizes their case is built on shifting sands and a missing victim. March 2014. 7 years after their arrest, the trial finally begins. But as the prosecution presents its case, the defense turns the spotlight away from the accused and back toward the victims, putting the family's own behavior under a legal microscope. Vindra's daughter, Rishma Ali, brings the horror of December 19th into the courtroom. She testifies to the sound of shattering glass and her frantic and failed attempts to reach the police emergency line. She recounts the chilling moment her stepfather, Rennie Coolman, entered the room and said, "They left with her." The defense is relentless. They scrutinize Rishma's actions, questioning why no one in the house moved to help Vindra. In a series of aggressive turns, they suggest domestic discord and even hint at an inappropriate relationship between Rishma and Rennie Coolman. Allegations both vehemently deny, calling the defense's tactics a desperate attempt to distract from the murder. The scrutiny deepens into the bizarre. The defense probes the household's private life, bringing up a frozen lime found in the freezer to suggest the family practiced obeah or folk magic. They use these claims to paint the Naipaul-Coolman household as a place of sinister secrets, further muddying the waters of the investigation. Vindra's husband Rennie Coolman faces a brutal interrogation. He is grilled on why, being a licensed firearm holder, stayed hidden while his wife was taken. Then comes the bombshell. Coolman admits to paying $75,000 to an extortionist because he feared the state was framing him for the murder. To the defense, this was the act of a man with something to hide. Prosecution's case rests on Kian Gloucester, whose statements detailed a gruesome dismemberment. But on the stand, case implodes. Gloucester recants everything, claiming police beat him and exploited his epilepsy to fabricate a story. Without his testimony, prosecution's narrative begins to vanish. Physical evidence is reduced to a single piece of duct tape found in the La Puerta house months later. The defense scoffs, reminding the jury that the crime scene was left unsecured for weeks. Between a husband who paid off extortionists and a witness who claims police brutality, path to justice has become a labyrinth of reasonable doubt. May 2016. After a 2-year trial, the jury delivers its final word. 8 men, Shervon and Devin Peters, Anthony Gloucester, Kaida Garcia, Jamil Garcia, Marlon Trimmingham, Ronald Armstrong, and Antonio Charles are found not guilty. For Earl Trimmingham and Lyndon James, the jury is deadlocked, and a retrial is ordered. But the courtroom is haunted by those no longer present. Joel Fraser, who was freed months earlier due to lack of evidence, and Alan Scanny Martin, who never lived to hear the verdict. The legal road was fatal for some. Raphael Williams died in prison in 2011 while awaiting trial. The most notorious of the accused, Alan Scanny Martin, was killed by police in July 2015 during a daring and bloody prison break. In this case, death often arrived before the gavel could fall. For those who walked free, the violence of the case followed them home. In 2017, Sheldon Marlon Trimmingham is executed in La Puerta. In 2021, Anthony Dwayne Gloucester is killed in a drive-by shooting. Even the star witness, Kian Gloucester, meets a violent end that same year, gunned down in the streets of Diego Martin. The cycle of death in the hills of La Puerta refuses to break. In 2023, things takes a final, surreal turn. because the state lost a legal file and failed to defend a malicious prosecution lawsuit. A default judgment is entered. By June 2025, Court of Appeal upholds a $20 million payout to 9 men: Shervon Peters, Devin Peters, Anthony Gloucester, Joel Fraser, Ronald Armstrong, Kaida Garcia, Jamil Garcia, Marlon Trimmingham, and Antonio Charles, as compensation for the state's failures. Today, in 2026, the state has approached the Privy Council to stop the payout. 2 decades later, Vindra's name stands for a life tragically stolen and a justice system in total collapse. Her remains have never been found, leaving her story to be told through the lens of a $20 million error and the silence of the Diego Martin Hills.